The night was cold and silent on the edge of a small Earth town. Wind blew through the empty roads, and the sound of rain hitting metal echoed softly. Ethan worked alone inside his small workshop. He was a quiet man who fixed broken machines, old hover trucks, and sometimes even broken hearts for those who came to him for help. But tonight he just wanted silence. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. The rain turned heavy, washing dust off the road. Ethan closed the shutters and was about to turn off the lights when something strange happened. He heard a crash not far from his house, followed by a weak cry like someone was calling for help. At first he ignored it. He had learned to stay out of trouble. The galaxy was full of strange things now. Aliens had come years ago, and though most were peaceful, some brought chaos and danger. But that cry, it sounded scared, weak, and alone. Ethan grabbed his raincoat and flashlight. He stepped outside into the storm. The light cut through the rain, showing nothing but mud and falling water, until he saw something lying near the edge of the forest. It was small, shaking, and glowing faintly blue. He moved closer, heart pounding. It was a girl, or at least she looked like one. Her skin was pale with a soft blue shimmer, her clothes torn and soaked. Her silver hair stuck to her face, and strange marks glowed faintly on her arms. She looked no older than 20. When Ethan knelt beside her, she flinched and tried to crawl away. Her eyes, bright violet and full of fear, stared at him. She spoke something in another language, her voice trembling. Ethan didn't understand a word, but the tone was clear. She was begging him not to hurt her. He raised his hand slowly. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not going to harm you." She didn't move. The rain kept falling, washing the mud from her arms. Ethan noticed strange cuts and bruises on her wrists, like she had been tied up or dragged. Something inside him stirred, a memory of his younger sister who had died years ago in a war between humans and alien rebels. The same helpless look, the same fear. He sighed and took off his jacket, wrapping it gently around her. "You'll freeze out here," he muttered. "Come on." She hesitated, but when thunder cracked above them, she quickly grabbed his arm, her body trembling. Ethan lifted her carefully and carried her toward his cabin. She was light, almost weightless, like holding a child made of light and sorrow. Inside, the warmth of the fire filled the small room. Ethan laid her on the couch near the heater. She looked around, frightened but curious. The soft glow under her skin flickered weaker now, as if her body was shutting down. Ethan moved quickly. He found a blanket, wrapped her up, and handed her a cup of warm water. She stared at it for a long time before finally taking a sip. Then she said something again, her voice fragile but full of gratitude. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, you're welcome." For a while, silence filled the room. The storm outside roared, but inside was calm. The girl's eyes slowly closed, her body relaxing. Ethan sat nearby, watching the faint blue light beneath her skin pulse gently like a heartbeat. He whispered to himself, "Who are you?" Suddenly the girl stirred. She opened her eyes and pointed weakly at herself. "Lyra," she said softly, her voice struggling to form the sound. "Lyra," Ethan repeated. "That your name?" She nodded slowly. Then her hand moved to her chest, and her eyes filled with tears. She said something else, words he couldn't understand, but the emotion behind them was clear. Loss, pain, fear. Ethan didn't know what to do. He had no translator, no friends who dealt with aliens. But one thing he did know: she needed help, and he was the only one who could give it. As the night went on, Lyra fell asleep. Ethan covered her with another blanket and sat near the fire. He watched the rain slide down the window, thinking about the strange girl now sleeping on his couch. Her skin wasn't just glowing. It was patterned, tiny marks like stars across her shoulders. And on her neck, half hidden under her hair, he saw something that looked like an emblem. A circle with 3 lines through it, faintly pulsing with light. He didn't recognize the symbol, but he could tell it wasn't ordinary. Outside, a faint hum echoed through the storm, like distant engines searching. Ethan frowned and turned off the workshop lights. Through the window, he saw a faint red beam sweep across the forest. Someone or something was looking for her. He looked back at the sleeping girl. She looked peaceful for the first time since he found her. Ethan took a deep breath. "Whoever's looking for you," he murmured. "They'll have to go through me first." The storm raged outside, lightning flashing across the sky. Inside, the human and the alien girl, Two strangers from different worlds shared a fragile silence that would soon change both of their lives forever. And in that quiet moment, a tiny spark of destiny began to burn, one that would grow into something powerful enough to shake the stars. The next morning, sunlight peeked through the dusty windows of Ethan's cabin. The storm had passed, leaving behind a calm silence and a smell of wet earth. Ethan rubbed his tired eyes. He hadn't slept much. Every time he closed them, he saw that strange girl lying on his couch, Lyra. When he looked over, she was already awake. Her violet eyes followed the small robot cleaner moving across the floor. She flinched when it beeped. Ethan chuckled softly. "Don't worry. It's not alive, just cleaning." She tilted her head, confused. Then she smiled faintly, repeating the word slowly. "Clean," and that was the first time Ethan realized she was trying to learn. He cooked something simple, fried eggs and toast, and placed a plate near her. Lyra sniffed it carefully like a frightened cat. When she finally took a small bite, her eyes widened. She chewed fast, then shyly pushed the empty plate toward him. Ethan laughed. "You were starving, huh?" She didn't understand the words, but his laughter made her relax. It was the first warm sound she'd heard in months. Over the next few days, life in the cabin began to change. Ethan taught her small words using gestures. "Table," he'd say, tapping the wooden surface. She would repeat it softly. "Chair, door, fire." Sometimes she got them wrong and laughed at herself, a sound that filled the lonely cabin with life again. At night, Ethan repaired old machines while Lyra watched curiously. She seemed fascinated by everything human, the sound of boiling water, the way lights flickered, the hum of the heater. Once she touched the small radio on the shelf. It crackled and she jumped back, startled. Then she looked at Ethan, wide-eyed, and giggled. But not everything was peaceful. Sometimes Ethan would find her staring out the window for hours, eyes full of fear and sadness. Once she woke up screaming in the middle of the night. Her skin glowed brighter, and the strange symbol on her neck burned faintly blue. Ethan rushed to her side, grabbing her shoulders. "It's okay. You're safe. No one's coming." She shook her head, trembling. Then she whispered something in her language, the same word again and again. Ethan didn't understand, but the way she said it sent chills through him. It sounded like a warning. By morning, she acted normal again, pretending nothing happened. But Ethan knew something was haunting her. One afternoon, while Ethan was fixing the roof, Lyra came outside holding a small flower she found near the forest. She smiled and handed it to him. Her hands were trembling, but her eyes shone with hope. "For you," she said carefully. Ethan froze. "You're getting better with words," he said with a smile. She nodded proudly, then pointed to herself. "Lyra." "Yeah," Ethan said warmly. "Lyra." Then she pointed to him. "Ethan," he laughed. "Close enough." That moment was simple, but it felt special. Two worlds meeting without fear. Later that evening, as the sun dipped below the trees, Ethan noticed something strange. Small lights flickered in the sky, not stars, not planes. They moved in patterns. He stepped outside, frowning. "Drones," he muttered. He rushed back inside. "Lyra, get away from the windows." She looked at him, confused, until she saw the lights herself. Her face turned pale. She whispered a single word, one that sent shivers down his spine. "Hunters." Ethan's stomach tightened. "Hunters? What do you mean?" She ran to the door, trying to say more, but her words broke apart. She pointed to the sky, then at herself. Her voice cracked. "They can find me." Ethan didn't fully understand, but the fear in her eyes told him enough. Whoever those hunters were, they weren't here to help. He quickly turned off all lights and shut the power generator. The cabin went dark. They crouched behind the table, watching the red lights sweep through the forest outside. The drones hovered low, scanning the area, then slowly moved away. When the danger passed, Lyra collapsed, shaking. Ethan wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "You're safe now," he said softly. She looked at him, eyes full of tears. Then slowly she reached out and touched his hand. "Thank you." Ethan didn't know what to say. He just nodded. That night, while she slept, he sat near the fire, staring at the faint glow from her skin. His mind was spinning. Who was she really? Why were people, or things, hunting her? He looked at her peaceful face and whispered to himself, "I don't care who you are. You're not alone anymore. Outside, far beyond the clouds, one of the drones turned back toward the stars, sending a silent signal. It had found a trace of what it was searching for. But inside the small cabin, unaware of the coming storm, a fragile bond between human and alien was growing stronger, a bond that would soon decide the fate of two worlds. Days passed, but Ethan couldn't stop thinking about the drones. They hadn't returned, yet something in the air felt different, heavier, tense. Lyra pretended everything was fine, but her eyes gave away the truth. Every time a sound echoed outside, she froze. Every time a ship passed above, she trembled. One morning, Ethan found her outside, kneeling near the stream behind his cabin. She was touching the water, staring at her reflection. Her silver hair glowed faintly in the sunlight, and for a moment she looked peaceful. But then she whispered something softly in her own language, a word filled with sorrow. Ethan called out, "Hey, you shouldn't wander off alone." She turned quickly, startled, hiding her hands behind her. But it was too late. He saw them. Glowing marks ran across her skin like veins of light. They pulsed faintly, almost like a heartbeat. Ethan frowned. "You're changing." Lyra looked down, ashamed. "No, hide," she whispered, trying to cover her arms. "It's okay," he said gently, stepping closer. "You don't have to hide from me." Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Instead, she turned her face away, tears glistening in her violet eyes. That night, she sat quietly by the fire, clutching a small piece of metal she always carried. Ethan had noticed it before, but never asked. It was shaped like a star with strange alien symbols carved into it. Finally, he broke the silence. "Lyra, who's after you?" She froze. Her fingers tightened around the metal. He continued softly. "Those drones. They're not human, are they?" Lyra's voice cracked as she replied, "No, not human." She stared at the floor, struggling to find the right words. "They belong to the one who killed my people." Ethan's heart skipped. "Kill your people?" She nodded slowly. "Bad men, take my world, burn my home, my family." Her voice faltered and tears rolled down her cheeks. I run far." He sat quietly, giving her time. After a long pause, she continued, her words broken but clear enough to understand. "My world. Valyrian, I was daughter of High One. We have light inside, gift from stars. But bad men want power. They come, take, destroy. I only one. Live." Ethan stared at her, speechless. "Princess, was that what she meant? You're saying you're from a royal family?" She looked at him, confused by the word royal, but then slowly nodded. "Yes, but no more. Family gone. Home gone. Nothing now." Ethan leaned back, trying to take it all in. The quiet girl he found in the rain wasn't just a refugee. She was someone important, someone hunted. "Lyra," he said gently, "if those men are still looking for you, you can't stay out in the open. They'll come again." Her eyes widened. "You send me away?" He shook his head firmly. "No, I'm saying we'll keep you safe." Her lips parted in surprise. "We?" "Yeah," he said with a small smile. "You're not alone anymore." For a moment, she just stared at him. Then her shoulders shook and she began to cry quietly. It wasn't the cry of fear this time, it was something else. Relief. Gratitude. Ethan gently placed his hand on hers. "You've lost a lot," he said softly. "But you're still alive. That means there's hope." She looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. "You helped me." "No reason why." "Because," Ethan said after a pause, "someone once helped me when I was lost too." That night, Lyra finally told him more. She spoke of shining cities among the stars, of her mother's laughter, of the betrayal that destroyed it all. A trusted general turned traitor. A coup that left her running through the ruins of her homeworld, hiding inside a cargo ship until she crash-landed on Earth. Ethan listened quietly, every word painting pictures of pain and survival. When she finished, her voice faded into silence. The fire cracked softly between them. Ethan said, "You're stronger than you think, Lyra." She smiled weakly. "Strong? No, I am scared. Everyone's scared," he said. "The brave ones are just those who keep going. For the first time." She smiled, a real gentle smile, but their peace didn't last long. Later that night, when Ethan stepped outside to check the generator, he noticed something carved into the dirt beside the cabin, strange marks that glowed faintly red. Tracks, circular prints, deep and heavy. He crouched, touching one of them. The ground was warm. Recently made, his chest tightened. Someone or something had been there. When he turned back toward the cabin, he saw Lyra standing at the window, her hand pressed to the glass. Her expression was full of dread. Ethan looked at her and realized the hunters were closer than ever, and now that he knew who she truly was, they would never stop until they found her. Night had fallen again over the forest. The air was still, too still. Ethan sat near the fire, pretending to read an old manual, but his eyes kept drifting to the window. The memory of the glowing red tracks outside wouldn't leave his mind. Something was coming. He could feel it. Lyra sat on the floor beside the heater, humming softly, a strange alien tune that sounded both sad and beautiful. Her voice carried a kind of ache, a memory of stars and places Ethan would never see. He smiled faintly. "That's a nice song." She stopped, looking at him. "Old song. From home. Your kingdom." She nodded slowly. "We sing it when scared. To be brave." Ethan leaned forward. "Then keep singing. Might need that tonight." Something in his voice made her stop. She looked at him carefully. "You feel danger?" He didn't answer, but his hand moved toward the old plasma wrench lying near the door. The same moment, a faint hum filled the air, low and steady, like the purr of a machine far away but growing closer. Lyra's eyes widened. "They come." Ethan stood quickly, checking his weapons, not real guns but tools turned into defenses. A plasma cutter, a charge stick, a shock blaster that barely worked. Outside, red lights flashed between the trees. The sound of engines echoed through the valley. Ethan turned to Lyra. "Get to the back room. Don't come out unless I say so." She shook her head. "No, I help." "Lyra, I not run again," she said firmly, voice trembling but strong. "You saved me. Now I stay." He hesitated. Then he nodded. "All right, but stay low." The first explosion hit the ground near the cabin. The walls shook. Dirt rained from the ceiling. Ethan grabbed his shock blaster and kicked the door open. 3 drones hovered outside, scanning the area with red beams. He fired. The blaster sparked once, twice, and one drone fell smoking into the mud. The others shot back. Blue energy bolts ripped through the night. Ethan ducked behind a metal crate. "Great," he muttered. "Guess I just made them angry." Lyra crawled beside him, her eyes glowing faintly now. "They not stop," she said. "Hunters never stop." Another beam shot through the wall, narrowly missing her. Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then neither will I." He ran out from cover, swinging the plasma wrench like a weapon, striking a drone as it dove. The hit cracked its shell and it fell to the ground, twitching. Sparks flew. The third drone locked onto him and fired. The bolt hit his shoulder. Pain seared through his body. He fell to his knees. "Ethan!" Lyra screamed, rushing toward him. He forced a smile through the pain. "Stay back." But she didn't. She knelt beside him, her hands glowing brighter, trembling over his wound. The light spread from her palms, warm and soft. The pain faded, replaced by a strange calm. Ethan blinked. What are you doing?"
"Helping," she whispered.
"My people heal with light." Before he could answer, the trees split apart as something huge stepped into the clearing. A tall, armored figure with mechanical wings and glowing red eyes. It wasn't a drone. It was alive, part metal, part creature. Its voice was deep and cold. "Target located," it said. "Princess Lyraeth." "You cannot hide." Ethan staggered to his feet. "You want her, you'll have to get through me." The creature turned toward him, scanning him up and down. Human, irrelevant. Ethan clenched his teeth. "We'll see." He charged forward, swinging the plasma wrench at its chest. The blow sparked but barely dented the armor. The creature grabbed him and threw him across the yard. He hit the ground hard, gasping for breath. Lyra screamed and ran toward him. But as she did, the creature raised its weapon. "Stay down." Ethan shouted, struggling to move. The shot fired. In that instant, Lyra lifted both hands, and everything changed. A surge of light burst from her body, blinding and pure. The energy rippled through the forest, shaking the trees. The bolt stopped midair, dissolving in the glow. The creature stumbled backward, its armor cracking under invisible force. Ethan shielded his eyes as the light surrounded them. Lyra stood tall now, her silver hair floating, her skin glowing brighter than ever. The mark on her neck shone like a crown. The creature tried to speak but collapsed, its armor melting. The remaining drones exploded one by one. The light faded slowly, leaving the forest silent again. Ethan stared at her, chest rising and falling. "Lyra, what are you?" She looked at him, tears in her eyes. "I am what they fear." Then her legs gave out and she fell forward. Ethan caught her, holding her gently. Her skin was cold but alive. He whispered, "You saved me." She smiled weakly. "You saved first." Above them, the clouds parted, revealing a sky full of stars. One of those stars glowed brighter than the rest. Watching, waiting. Ethan looked at it, then down at the girl in his arms. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but one thing was certain. He wouldn't let her face it alone. Somewhere beyond that sky, an empire stirred, realizing their lost princess had awakened her power again. And Earth had just become part of her war. The night after the battle felt endless. The air smelled of burned metal, and the trees outside still smoked from the fight. Ethan sat beside the fire, his shoulder bandaged, his hands shaking slightly. He had faced danger before. Wild machines, raiders, storms, but never anything like that. Across from him, Lyra slept on the couch, her glow dimmed, her breathing slow but steady. She looked peaceful now, almost human, if not for the faint light that shimmered under her skin. Ethan couldn't look away. That same light had saved both of them. When she finally woke, morning light filled the cabin. She blinked slowly, confused at first, then looked at Ethan with tired eyes. "You alive?" she whispered weakly. He smiled faintly. "You too." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Lyra sat up, clutching the star-shaped pendant she always wore. She held it tightly as if afraid it might vanish. Ethan asked quietly, "You called that creature a hunter. They said Princess Lyra. That's your full name, isn't it?" Lyra froze. Her fingers trembled. She looked at him, pain deep in her eyes. "You hear that name? You believe?" He nodded. "After last night, I believe everything." She looked away, her voice barely a whisper. "Long ago, before they come, my people ruled many stars. Valyrian Empire. Peaceful, kind. We share knowledge. Heal worlds. My mother was Queen of Light, my father, Keeper of Stars." Ethan listened in silence. "One man," she continued, "our general, wanted power. He make army with machines. Promise safety but bring death. He kill my family. Take throne. I escape with help of guard. They die for me." Her voice broke. "I run, hide on ship, fell through space. Crash here." Ethan's heart ached as she spoke. The gentle girl he found in the rain was not just lost. She was the last survivor of a fallen kingdom. She turned her face toward him, tears shining. "Now you know truth. I am Princess Lyra, but that mean nothing now. My world is gone." He shook his head slowly. "It means something. It means you survived. That's enough to start again." She frowned slightly. "Start again, alone?" Ethan leaned forward, resting his hands on his knees. "You're not alone anymore, Lyra. You have me. And as long as you're here, I'll protect you." She stared at him, her lips trembling. "Why, you human?" "I alien, my kind. Hurt your people once," he smiled gently. "Maybe, but you didn't. You're different." "You're kind. You saved me." Lyra looked down, silent. Then slowly she placed her small hand over his. "In my world," she said softly, "touch mean trust. I trust you, Ethan." The moment was quiet but powerful. Outside, the forest swayed in the breeze. Inside, something unspoken passed between them. A promise made without words. Later that day, Ethan went outside to repair the damage. The ground was scorched, the cabin wall burned, but he worked anyway. Lyra stood nearby, helping in silence. She used her powers carefully, melting broken metal, sealing cracks, fixing circuits. Every time she used her light, Ethan couldn't help but stare. "Your energy," he said. "It's beautiful." "Like magic," she smiled faintly. "Not magic. Life force. All Valyrian have, but mine stronger. From mother's line." She paused, eyes lowering. "That why they hunt me?" Ethan straightened. "Because you're powerful?" She nodded. "They fear what I can do. My power can heal, or destroy." He glanced at her glowing hands. "Then we better make sure it's used to heal." That night, Lyra stood outside looking at the stars. Her eyes followed a small constellation that pulsed faintly, like it was calling to her. Ethan joined her quietly. She whispered, "Home still there? I feel it." You think some of your people survived? Maybe, she said softly. Old signal still in pendant. It called to loyal ones. Maybe. They come for me. Ethan smiled faintly. Then we'll be ready to welcome them. But deep inside, he knew that if they came, they wouldn't just bring peace and they'd bring a storm. Lyra turned to him. If they come, she said seriously, they want me return. But they no trust you. They erase your memory. Ethan frowned. Erase my memory, why? To keep secrets safe, she said sadly. No human can know our world, he gave a short laugh. Too late for that, princess. Lyra's eyes softened. You call me princess now? Just this once, he said, smiling. Don't get used to it. She laughed quietly, the sound warm and real. For a moment, she didn't feel like royalty or a fugitive, just a girl who had finally found someone who saw her as more than a title. But as the night grew darker, the stars above shimmered strangely. One of them blinked once, twice, and then vanished. Lyra's pendant glowed in response. Her voice turned to a whisper. They found me. Ethan's expression hardened. Then they'll find me too. Standing right beside you. The wind grew colder, carrying the distant sound of engines. Somewhere beyond the clouds, something massive moved through space, heading for Earth. And in that moment, Lyra knew. The life she had built here, the peace she had found, was about to be tested again. But this time she wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. Because this time she had a reason to fight. For 2 days, peace returned to the cabin. The skies were quiet. No red lights, no machines, no sound of engines in the night. But Ethan and Lyra both knew. It was only silence before the storm. Lyra had grown stronger since the battle. Her glow had returned. Her steps were lighter and her voice carried a new kind of strength. Yet sometimes she looked at the sky for long minutes, lost in thoughts that never reached words. One morning, Ethan found her standing outside with her pendant shining brightly. It called again, she whispered. My people, they near. Ethan's heart skipped. Near? You mean they're coming? She nodded slowly, eyes fixed on the sky. The loyal ones. They follow the signal. Before he could reply, the air shimmered above them. A deep hum rolled through the forest as clouds twisted like liquid silver. Then with a flash, a colossal ship appeared, golden, smooth, and vast, blocking out the sun. The ground shook as it descended. Ethan stepped back, shielding his eyes. That's your people? Lyra nodded, tears glinting. Yes, my home comes back to me. The ship landed beyond the trees. From its ramp emerged armored figures in silver-white suits, their helmets glowing faintly. They moved in perfect formation, carrying banners marked with the royal crest, the same symbol that shimmered on Lyra's neck. When they saw her, they stopped. Then as one, they knelt. Princess Lyrath, the leader said, his voice echoing through his helmet. Your empire awaits your command. Ethan stood behind her, unsure what to say. Lyra looked frozen, caught between joy and fear. Slowly, she stepped forward. You came, she said softly. Yes, Your Highness, the commander replied. We have been searching since the fall. The traitor still holds the throne. We are here to return you to your destiny. She hesitated, glancing back at Ethan. And him? The commander turned his head toward Ethan, his tone sharp. A human. He cannot remain. He must forget, Ethan frowned. Forget what? Our existence, the soldier said. Our world. You have seen what no human should. The memory will be cleansed. Lyra's eyes widened. No, he saved me. He protect me when all others leave me. He stay when I was nothing. You will not harm him. Princess, the commander said firmly. We only follow the law of the Empire. No outsider may keep royal secrets. Ethan stayed calm, though his chest tightened. It's fine, Lyra, he said quietly. If this is what you have to do, I understand. She turned to him sharply. No, you don't. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. You gave me a home, Ethan. You made me remember who I am. I will not let them take you from me. The commander stepped forward. Princess, please. Lyra raised her hand and light burst from her skin. The soldiers froze, blinded. Enough, she shouted. I am your ruler. You obey me now. Silence filled the clearing. Even the air seemed to stop. Then slowly, the commander lowered his weapon and bowed deeply. As you command, my queen. Ethan stood there stunned. Queen? She turned to him, her eyes full of emotion. They not just follow me, she said softly. They kneel to me. My blood calls them. The commander spoke again, more humbly now. We have rebuilt the fleet, Your Majesty. The people wait. The traitors' forces weaken. You are the hope we lost. Lyra's voice softened. I will come, but he comes with me. Ethan blinked. Wait, what? The commander hesitated. Bringing a human to the royal world is forbidden. Lyra's expression hardened, then changed the rule. I am queen now. The soldiers exchanged glances, then bowed again. As you wish, she turned to Ethan. You saved me from cold and fear. Now I save you from being forgotten. He smiled faintly. Guess I don't really have a choice, huh? Her lips curved into a small smile. You have my trust. That is enough. Moments later, they boarded the ship. Inside, corridors shimmered with white crystal and soft gold. The walls pulsed gently like they were alive. Lyra walked with grace, her people bowing as she passed. Ethan followed quietly, feeling both awe and disbelief. Through the ship's window, he watched Earth shrink below them, his home fading into blue light. Lyra stood beside him, her reflection glowing against the glass. Do you regret coming? She asked softly. He shook his head. I'd regret not coming more, she smiled. Then you are ready. As the ship jumped into light speed, stars stretched into rivers of silver. Ethan felt the pull of the unknown. Ahead lay a kingdom of light and darkness, of war and loyalty, and at its heart, the girl he had once found in the rain. Lyra reached out, holding his hand tightly. Whatever comes, she whispered, we face it together. And as their ship vanished into the stars, the Queen of Valerian returned home, not as the lost princess she once was, but as a ruler reborn, carrying with her the courage of one human who refused to let her face the universe alone. The stars stretched endlessly around the royal ship as it glided through the darkness. Ethan stood beside a wide glass window, staring at the glowing trails left behind by the engines. For the first time, he wasn't looking up at the stars from Earth. He was inside them. Behind him, Lyra stood wearing ceremonial armor, light silver and gold, her long silver hair flowing like starlight. She looked every bit a queen now, calm, strong, and radiant, yet her eyes still carried the warmth of the girl who once trembled in the rain. Home, she whispered softly, after so long. I go home. Ethan turned to her. You're not the same person who left it, he said quietly. She smiled gently. No, I am not. You changed me. The ship slowed as a massive planet came into view, glowing cities floating in the clouds, golden towers piercing through mist, and a pale moon shining over oceans of silver light. Valerian, her world. But the beauty couldn't hide the scars. Fires still burned in the dark corners of the world. The traitors' fleet circled the capital city like a shadow. They still fight, Ethan murmured. Lyra's gaze hardened. Not for long. When the ship landed, thousands of her people waited in the grand hall of crystal. As she stepped down the ramp, the crowd fell to their knees. A song began to echo through the chamber, a hymn of the old empire. Many wept openly. Their queen had returned. The commander bowed low. The throne awaits you, Your Majesty. Lyra looked back at Ethan before answering. Not yet. First I end what began years ago. They led her to the Hall of Light, where the royal crown rested, untouched since her mother's death. As she approached, the crystal crown glowed faintly, recognizing her bloodline. But Lyra didn't put it on. She turned instead to a massive screen that showed the enemy fleet in orbit. The traitor waits above, she said quietly. He destroyed my family. I will not let him destroy what's left. Ethan stepped closer. You don't have to face him alone. She looked at him, the human who had stood by her when she had nothing, and nodded once. Then fight with me. Moments later, the command center erupted in motion. Loyal ships took flight, engines roaring. Lyra's fleet rose from the clouds, forming a shining barrier around the capital. Ethan sat beside her in the command seat, watching the enemy ships darken the sky. The traitor's voice came through the intercom, cold, metallic. Little princess, you survived. How disappointing. Come surrender and I may let your world live. Lyra stood, her voice steady. You took everything from me, but you cannot take who I've become. She lifted her hands and light burst across the fleet. Every loyal ship's systems powered up, responding to her energy. Ethan stared in awe. Her will itself commanded the fleet. The sky turned white as the battle began. Lasers streaked across space. Ships exploded in flashes of gold and red. Ethan manned the defense turrets, firing with precision. "We're outnumbered," he shouted. Lyra closed her eyes, her hands glowing brighter. "Then we show them what humans call courage." A shockwave spread from her ship, disabling half the enemy fleet. The traitor's voice screamed in fury. "You cannot win." Lyra opened her eyes, now blazing like twin stars. "I already have." Her final blast of light pierced through the traitor's command ship, shattering it completely. The explosion lit up the sky like a sunrise. Then silence. The war was over. When the dust settled, the people of Valyrian gathered once more, cheering their queen's name. "Lyra Ith, the Queen of Light," they cried. But Lyra's eyes turned toward the stars, toward a small blue world far away. Earth. Weeks later, she stood on her balcony, wearing the royal crown at last. Ethan stood beside her, still in his earth jacket, looking awkward among all the shimmering robes. "You really are their queen now," he said with a grin. She smiled softly. "And you are my link to the world that saved me." He tilted his head. "So what now? You rule an empire." Lyra looked up at the night sky. "And yet part of me still belongs to that little cabin, that storm, that kindness." She placed a small pendant in his hand, a twin to her own. "When you need me, look to the stars." Before he could answer, a beam of light surrounded him. "Wait, what's happening?" She smiled sadly. "You must go home. Earth needs you too." The light grew brighter until everything vanished. Ethan opened his eyes and found himself standing outside his cabin. The forest was quiet, the dawn breaking. For a moment he thought it was all a dream, until he looked down and saw the glowing pendant in his hand. He smiled faintly. Guess she kept her promise. Months later, when Earth faced its own invasion, the sky split open again. But this time, it was not the enemy. Golden ships covered the heavens, bearing the crest of Valyrian, and from the lead vessel a voice echoed across the clouds, firm and royal. "This planet sheltered me when I was nothing. Now I protect it as your queen." The people of Earth looked up as beams of light struck down the invaders in seconds. The sky turned golden. Hope returned. Far below, Ethan stood watching, pendant glowing in his hand, whispering softly to himself. She kept her word. The loyal princess.